some of them anyway. I don't know what the crowds are, but and I don't know. Has anyone been there, Jagannath Puri for Rath Yatra, and know what happens during Gundicha Marjana? No? Anyway, yes, Prabhu. Have you been there? It's a grand affair. They have it's a big festival, cleansing of the Gundicha temple. So anyway, we'll be there through sound vibration. So why don't we read the chapter summary first, and then we can start right off. With the pastime. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Chapter summary. In his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur summarizes this chapter as follows. Okay, the first paragraph we'll skip because that's pastimes relating to Maharaj Prataparudra and Lord Chaitanya. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed the Gundicha temple before the Rath Yatra took place. He then took his bath at Indranumna lake and partook of prasadam in the garden nearby. While Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed the temple of Gundicha, a Gaudiya Vaishnava washed the lotus feet of the Lord and drank the water. This incident is very significant, for it awoke within the devotee ecstatic love. Then the son of Advaita Prabhu named Gopal fainted during kirtan. And when he did not come to his senses, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu favored him by awakening him. Okay, so we'll just go straight to the pastime, because there's other things we're not concerned with today in this pastime. And Shri Gundicha Mandiranam Atma Vrindai Samarjayam Kshalai Nata Sagora Swachitta Vaschitalam Ujvalam Cha Krishno Bhave Shaupaikam Chakara. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the Gundicha temple with his devotees and associates. In this way he made it as cool and bright as his own heart, and thus he made the temple a befitting place for Lord Shri Krishna to sit. Jaya Jaya Gaura Chandra Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Gaura Chandra, all glories to Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to the devotees of Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jaya Jaya Shiva Shadi Gaura Bhaktagan Shakti Deha Kori Yena Chaitanya Varnana. All glories to the devotees of Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, headed by Srivas Thakur. I beg their power so that I can properly describe Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Translation. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first of all called for Kashi Mishra, then for the superintendent of the temple, then for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. When these three people came before the Lord, he begged them for permission to wash the temple known as Gundicha. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The Gundicha temple is situated 2 miles northeast of the Jagannath temple. At the time of the Ratha Yatra festival, Lord Jagannath goes to the Gundicha temple from his original temple and stays there for 1 week. After 1 week, he returns to his original temple. It is understood by hearsay that the wife of Indradumna, the king who established the Jagannath temple, was known as Gundicha. That was a long, long time ago. Many millions of years. There is also mention of the name of the Gundicha temple in authoritative scripture. The area of the Gundicha temple is estimated to be 288 cubits by 215 cubits. Anyone know what a cubit is? Srila Prabhupada explains. 1 cubit is about 1.5 feet. So it's not a huge temple. It's actually quite small. 300, that would be like 430 feet by like 300 feet, the whole temple. The main temple inside is about 36 cubits. So that's about 50 feet by 30 cubits. Yes, Prabhu? Huh? Oh, we're on verse 73. In the Madhya Lila chapter 12. So it's the main temple hall is in itself pretty small. So Jagannath's just going there, Lord Jagannath's going there to recover, and then in a week he's going back for the Jagannath festival. Oh, actually, that's not the Kirtan hall. That's the main temple. And the Kirtan hall is 32 cubits by 30 cubits, which is just a few feet smaller than the actual temple room inside. Upon hearing the Lord's request for permission to wash the Gundicha temple, the Padicha, the superintendent of the temple, said, "My dear sir, we are all your servants. Whatever you desire is our duty to perform." Translation. The king gave a special order for me to do without delay whatever your lordship orders. This is the temple priest again speaking. "My dear Lord, washing the temple is not service befitting you. Nonetheless, if you wish to do so, it is to be accepted as one of your pastimes." To wash the temple, you need many water pots and brooms. Therefore, order me. I can immediately bring all these things to you. Translation. As soon as the superintendent understood the desire of the Lord, he immediately delivered 100 new water pots and 100 brooms for sweeping the temple. The next day, early in the morning, the Lord took his personal associates with him, and with his own hand smeared sandalwood pulp on their bodies. Then he gave each devotee a broom with his own hand, and taking all of them personally with him, the Lord went to Gundicha. In this way, the Lord and his associates went to cleanse the Gundicha temple. At first they cleansed the temple with the brooms. The Lord cleansed everything inside the temple very nicely, including the ceiling. He then took up the sitting place, Singhasan, cleansed it, and again put it back in its original place. Thus the Lord and his companions cleansed and swept all the temple buildings, big and small, and finally cleansed the area between the temple and the kirtan hall. So listen very carefully. So this cleansing of the Gundicha temple, as we'll read a little later on, is considered to be the cleansing of one's own heart. And so we can see how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates cleansed the temple very, very thoroughly. They even cleansed the ceiling of the temple. How many times during cleansing of your house or of something when they did temple or your room, you actually clean the ceiling also? So anyway, all this is the Lord's pastime and is instructive. Indeed, hundreds of devotees were engaged in cleansing all around the temple, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally carrying out the operation just to instruct others. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the temple in great jubilation, chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna all the time. Similarly, all the devotees were also chanting and at the same time performing their respective duties. The entire beautiful body of the Lord was covered with dust and dirt. In this way, it became transcendently beautiful. At times, when cleansing the temple, the Lord shed tears, and in some places, he even cleansed with those tears. After this, the place where the deity's food was kept, the Bhoga Mandir, was cleansed. Then the yard was cleansed, and then all the residential quarters, one after the other, were cleansed. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu collected all the straw, dust, and grains of sand in one place, he gathered it all in his cloth and he threw it outside. Following the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees in great jubilation began to gather straws and dust with their own cloths and throw them outside the temple. The Lord then told the devotees, "I can tell how much you have labored and how well you have cleansed the temple simply by seeing all the straw and dust you have collected outside." Even though all the devotees collected dirt in one pile, the dirt collected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was much greater. Wow. How many devotees were there? I think it said hundreds, didn't it? Hundreds of devotees, and still the pile collected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was much greater than all the other devotees put together. After the inside of the temple was cleansed, the Lord again allotted areas for the devotees to cleanse. The Lord then ordered everyone to cleanse the inside of the temple very perfectly by taking finer dust, straws, and grains of sand and throwing them outside. So once they cleansed, then they cleansed again. And we're getting even finer dirt and dust particles. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the Vaishnavas cleansed the temple for the second time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see the cleansing work. While the temple was being swept, about 100 men stood ready with filled water pots, and they simply awaited the Lord's order to throw the water from them. You can just imagine how ecstatic it would be to be one of the devotees there cleansing the temple with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called for water, all the men immediately brought the 100 water pots, which were completely filled, and delivered them before the Lord. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first washed the main temple, and then thoroughly washed the ceiling, the walls, the floor, the sitting place, Singhasan, and everything else within the room. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself and his devotees began to throw water onto the ceiling. When this water fell, it washed the walls and the floor. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to wash the sitting place of Lord Jagannath with his own hands, and all the devotees began to bring water to the Lord. All the devotees within the temple began to wash. Each one had a broom in his hand, and in this way they cleansed the temple of the Lord. And remember, it wasn't a very big temple, and yet there were hundreds of devotees cleaning. Someone brought water to pour into the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and someone poured water on his lotus feet. Jai Shri Shri Krishna Balaram, Shri Radha Shama Sundar, Shri Gauritai Ki Jai. The water that fell from the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was drunk by someone who hid himself. Someone else begged for that water, and another person was giving that water in charity. After the room was washed, the water was let out through an outlet, and then it flowed and filled the yard outside. The Lord mopped the rooms with his own clothes, and he polished the throne with them also. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai! In this way, all the rooms were cleansed with 100 water pots. After the rooms had been cleansed, the minds of the devotees were as clean as the rooms. When the temple was cleansed, it was purified, cool, and pleasing, just as if the Lord's own pure mind had appeared. Since hundreds of men were engaged in bringing water from the lake, there was no place to stand on the banks. Consequently, someone began to draw water from a well. Hundreds of devotees brought water in the pots, and hundreds took the empty pots away to fill them up again. With the exception of Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Sarup Damodar, Brahmananda Bharti, and Paramananda Puri, everyone was engaged in filling the water pots and bringing them there. Many of the water pots were broken when people collided with one another, and hundreds of men had to bring new water pots to fill. Just imagine, as I mentioned, so many devotees, they couldn't, even filling them up in the lake, they couldn't fill them up at the same time. So just imagine so many devotees going back and forth, eager to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Devotees sometimes colliding with each other and breaking the pots. Some people were filling the pots, and others were washing the rooms, but everyone was engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna and Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna kai kare, gatera partana. Krishna Krishna kai kare, gata samarpana. One person begged for a water pot by chanting the holy names, Krishna Krishna, and another delivered a pot while chanting, Krishna Krishna. Ye kaye, se kaye Krishna nam. Krishna name hoila, Sanketa Sabakame. Whenever anyone had to speak, he did so by uttering the holy name of Krishna. Consequently, the holy name of Krishna became an indication for everyone who wanted something. Sounds a little bit like the pastime of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was in his youth and he developed the grammar where everything was in relation to Krishna. This is a very instructive. I remember just reading recently, Srila Prabhupada stated that one should be very careful about idle talk. And he said the devotee can make a vow and vow to not, a vow to say everything in relation with Krishna. Make sure that everything, all the words that emanate from his mouth are somehow or other in direct relation to Krishna or to service to Krishna. He said in that way one can make very rapid spiritual advancement. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was vibrating the holy name of Krishna in ecstatic love, he himself was performing the work of hundreds of men. Wow. It appeared as though Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were cleansing and washing with 100 hands. He approached every devotee just to teach him how to work. When he saw someone doing nicely, the Lord praised him. But if he saw that someone was not working to his satisfaction, he immediately chastised that person, not bearing him any grudge. So we can think, we can just imagine what kind of great fortune it would be to be there directly, one of the direct associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being able to cleanse the temple, and Mahaprabhu coming up and showing us directly how to clean like that. And also praising us if we clean nicely and chastising us if we didn't clean nicely. So we can understand to attain that position is so incredibly rare, to get the personal association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But we should equally consider ourselves incredibly fortunate to be able to have the opportunity to serve this ISKCON mission, to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission, to serve Lord Chaitanya in his temple. And we should develop that same mentality that whatever we do, and specifically when we're cleaning, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is personally observing us. Not only when we're cleaning, but when we're not cleaning. We should remember that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there watching what we do, and maybe we better start cleaning. Actually, before I sat down to give class today, I had to thoroughly clean the floor, at least the floor in my own room, because I thought, what am I doing? You know, I'm going to read this pastime and even have to do something to get into the mood. Although it wasn't anywhere near as cleansing wasn't nearly as good as the cleansing that's being described here. I'm sure that Lord Chaitanya would find all kind of pieces of dirt and dust and straw and would hopefully chastise me severely. So when the Lord saw someone doing nicely, cleaning nicely, the Lord praised him. But if he saw that someone was not working to his satisfaction, he immediately chastised that person, not bearing him any grudge. The Lord would say, "You have done well. Please teach this to others so they may act in the same way." As soon as they heard Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say this, everyone became ashamed. Thus the devotees began to work with great attention. That happens sometimes, doesn't it, in the discharge of our devotional service. I know it happens sometimes to me. Sometimes I think I've done a service satisfactorily, but then another devotee may point it out to me that actually I've done a very unsatisfactory job. And if I can get beyond my false ego, and that immediately makes me become angry and think, what are you talking about? What do you know? I always do such a great job. I know I did a good job. Must be your imperfect vision. But if I can actually humbly take some instruction, then you naturally become a little bit ashamed and then try to do better. And this verse also, where the Lord is instructing the devotees that you have done well, please teach this to others so that they may act in the same way. This is very, very instructive. Yad yad acharati shrestas, tad tad evi tarojana, sayat pramanam kurute, lokas tad anuvartate. Lord says in Bhagavad Gita that whatever actions a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by his exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So actually, everyone, all of you in this Krishna consciousness movement are all great men and great women. Because just to take to the process of Krishna consciousness is extremely rare, and our good fortune is unlimited. So we should have the mentality always that we're just not in this for ourselves. Srila Prabhupada explains that the debt to the spiritual master is eternal. We can never completely pay back the debt we owe the spiritual master for saving us from the world of birth, death, disease, and old age. So therefore, we have the duty and responsibility to also help others take to the path of Krishna consciousness and also instruct others. As instructed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, himself also. And that instruction especially is directly given to people born in India. Lord Chaitanya says, you must all become guru and spread this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. They washed the Jagamohan area and then the place where food was kept. All other places were also washed. In this way, the meeting place was washed, the entire yard, the raised sitting places, the kitchen, and every other room. Thus, all places around the temple were thoroughly washed, within and without. After everything was thoroughly washed, a Vaishnava from Bengal, who was very intelligent and simple, came and poured water on the lotus feet of the Lord. The Gaudiya Vaishnava then took that water and drank it himself. Seeing that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt a little unhappy and was also outwardly angry. Although the Lord was certainly satisfied with him, he became angry externally in order to establish the etiquette of religious principles. The Lord then called for Sarup Damodar and told him, just see the behavior of your Bengali Vaishnava. This person from Bengal has washed my feet within the temple of the personality of Godhead. Not only that, but he has drunk the water himself. I now do not know what my destination is because of this offense. Indeed, your Bengali Vaishnava has greatly implicated me. Srila Prabhupada's purport. It is significant that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Swarup Damodar Goswami that the Bengali Vaishnava was your Gaudiya Vaishnava. This means that all Gaudiya Vaishnavas who are followers of the Chaitanya cult are subordinate to Swarup Damodar Goswami. The Parampara system is very strictly observed by Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal secretary was Swarup Damodar Goswami. The next group of devotees was the 6 Goswamis, then Kaviraj Goswami. It is necessary to observe the Parampara system of the Chaitanya cult. There are many offenses one can commit while serving the Lord, and these are described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Hari Bhakti Vilas, and other books. According to the rules and regulations, no one should accept obeisances in the temple of the Lord before the deity. These offenses are very good to review from time to time. Some of these offenses, I recall having read them recently. And one of them, for example, is that one should not chastise anyone in front of the deities. One should not honor prasadam in front of the deities. So many instructions there. One should not pass air in front of the deities. Therefore, Prabhupada says that until one is digested as food properly, one should not enter the temple. So all these things are important to help us come to the realization that the Lord is personally present here within the temple. And when we are able to gain an enlightened understanding of that, then we can gradually come to the next platform of Krishna consciousness, when we realize that Krishna is within our heart and is within the heart of every living being. Indeed, He's the super soul within the heart of even every inanimate object. So according to the rules and regulations, one should not accept obeisances in the temple of the Lord before the deity, nor is it proper for a devotee to offer obeisances and touch the feet of the spiritual master before the deity. This is considered an offense. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself was personally the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, it was not actually offensive to wash his lotus feet in the temple. However, because he was playing the part of an acharya, the Lord considered himself an ordinary human being. He also wanted to give instructions to ordinary human beings. The point is that even though one plays the part of a spiritual master, he should not accept obeisances or permit a disciple to wash his feet before the deity. This is a matter of etiquette. Translation. At this point, Swarup Damodar Goswami caught the Gaudiya Vaishnava by the neck and gave him a little push, ejecting him from the Gundicha temple and made him stay outside. After Swarup Damodar Goswami returned within the temple, he requested Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to excuse that innocent person. After this incident, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very satisfied. He then asked all the devotees to sit down in 2 lines on both sides. The Lord then personally sat down in the middle and picked up all kinds of straw, grains of sand, and dirty things. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was picking up the straws and grains of sand, he said, "I shall gather everyone's collection, and I shall ask whoever has collected less than all the others to pay a fine of sweet cakes and sweet rice." In this way, all the quarters of the Gundicha temple were completely cleansed and cleared. All quarters were cool and spotless, like one's cleansed and pacified mind. Don't you experience that? Like when you do clean, maybe it's even just your, if you're pujari and you're cleaning the deity room, or cleansing the temple. Of course, in the temple here we have outside people generally cleansing the temple. I noticed also, I stay in the brahmacharya ashram, we have outside people cleaning the brahmacharya ashram also. And this doesn't happen anywhere in the West. It's happening, I think, more and more in India. I happened to be temple commander in Mayapur when Prabhupada was here for 4 months before, during, and after the Mayapur festival in 1976. That was very instructive. At that time, I had a lot of association with Srila Prabhupada because I had carte blanche to enter his room whenever I wanted to, and I was able to go on all the morning walks. It was, back then all our own men did all of the cleaning. And that is very, very instructive also. Was also something that Indra Prabhu set a very high personal example of. And the devotees who were with him at the time, many of them had personal instructions from Indra Prabhu regarding that. But I've observed also in the Brahmacharya ashram, a lot of times there's heaps of garbage. I don't know why, but it's thrown outside the garbage pail. And if the brahmacharis, any of the brahmacharis in the ashram are listening to this, they could maybe take this to heart. And whenever you have garbage to throw out, you can very conveniently put it inside the garbage container, not on the floor, outside the garbage container. And I've noticed over the last couple of days, there's a lot of garbage being thrown out all around. And I just suspect that if devotees ourselves were doing the cleaning ourselves, the standard of cleanliness would be higher. Our minds set would be a little more aware. And that in general, we should be responsible for our cleanliness. Inside, of course, by chanting Hare Krishna. Outside, by keeping clean and cleaning our apartment, our rooms nicely, and being responsible also for the area directly outside where we live as well. When I would go on a morning walk with Prabhupada in Mayapur, Prabhupada was incredibly attentive to every small detail. He was surrounded by a dozen devotees, sannyasis and GBCs, temple presidents, and they were engaged in hot debates of the philosophy on different things. And although Prabhupada was so completely absorbed and engaged like that, he would notice on his morning walk around Prabhupada every single detail that was out of place. If there was a faucet, I remember sometimes a faucet would be running, not running, dripping water, just like drip, drip, drip. Prabhupada would point his cane and says, why that water is dripping? And immediately we'd have to go and turn it off. One time when I was staying out on the opposite side of the property, Prabhupada was on the roof, beginning his morning walk. At H.G.Banabhatta Maharaj had his room on the roof there, and the devotees were right outside. You could see them from the distance. They were assembling to go on the morning walk. And so I was very excited. I finished whatever I was doing, and I ran down from the front gate all the way to the temple, very excited that I was going to get to go on the morning walk with Prabhupada, especially the first part of the walk, because he usually would give some, direct instructions to H.G.Banabhatta Maharaj, our other senior devotees here, mostly H.G.Banabhatta Maharaj, that were very instructive, might be instructive to me in my service. And so I ran all the way. I ran up all the flights of stairs of the Lotus building. I ran up on the roof. Prabhupada was there with all the devotees. I immediately offered my obeisances. And it was still dark, technically. But the light was just, the sun was just starting, but you couldn't see it yet. It was just starting to become a little bit light, but it was still like hazy. And so as soon as I got up there and joined the devotees, Prabhupada was walking. He happened to look across the property, and there was one tiny light bulb still on, all the way at the other end of the property by the prasadam hall. So the front gate was directly, down from where the Lotus building, the temple was, but then all the way down to the left side from where we were, where the Prasadam pavilion was and where this tiny light bulb was in. Prabhupada stopped talking. He pointed his cane at the light bulb. He said, "Why is that light bulb on?" So I was like, whoa. Immediately offered my obeisances. I ran all the way and missed a little bit of the first part of the morning walk. But those, those pastimes with Prabhupada there were very, very instructive. How Prabhupada was seeing Krishna in everything. And he would see details in everything, even in the external environment. And so that's, especially in light of this pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and cleansing the Gundicha temple, I think it's very, very instructive. Outside the gateway of the temple, all the roads were also cleansed, and no one could tell exactly how this was done. Purport: in commenting on the cleansing of the Gundicha temple, this is quite a large, long purport. This is pretty much the end of the pastime. Srila Prabhupada: in commenting on the cleansing of the Gundicha temple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the world leader, was personally giving instructions on how one should receive Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, within one's cleansed and pacified heart. If one wants to see Krishna seated in his heart, he must first cleanse the heart, as prescribed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshashtaka, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. In this age, everyone's heart is especially unclean. As confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Hridyanta Sto Hyabhadrani. To wash away all dirty things accumulated within the heart, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised everyone to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. The first result will be that the heart is cleansed, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam confirms this statement, Shinvatam Shvakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridyantashto Hyabhadrani, Vidunoti Saritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramama, super soul, in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relishes his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. If a devotee at all wants to cleanse his heart, he must chant and hear the glories of the Lord Sri Krishna. Wow, that's actually really exciting. It's just like the Lord is cleansing the Gundicha temple, and he's so much attentive to every detail. So in the same way, it's explaining, we should invite the Lord to come and cleanse our heart. And one of the best ways to have the Lord come and cleanse our heart is to completely become absorbed in hearing and chanting Srimad Bhagavatam. Because if we become completely absorbed in doing that, the Lord himself, that's what it says. I don't think I read that wrong. It says the Lord himself will actually come and personally cleanse our heart. So if a devotee at all wants to cleanse his heart, he must chant and hear the glories of the Lord, Sri Krishna. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna. This is a simple process. Krishna himself will help cleanse the heart because he is already seated there. Krishna wants to continue living within the heart, and the Lord wants to give directions, but one has to keep his heart as clean as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept the Gundicha temple. The devotee therefore has to cleanse his heart, just as the Lord cleansed the Gundicha temple. In this way, one can be pacified and enriched in devotional service. If the heart is filled with straw, grains of sand, weeds, or dust, in other words, anya bilasita purna, One cannot enthrone the Supreme Personality of Godhead there. The heart must be cleansed of all material motives brought about through fruitive work, speculative knowledge, the mystic yoga system, and so many other forms of so-called meditation. The heart must be cleansed without ulterior motive. As Srila Rupa Goswami says, Anyal bilasita sunyam jnana karma janavritam. In other words, there should not be any external motive. One should not attempt material upliftment, understanding the Supreme Personality by speculative knowledge, fruitive activity, severe austerity and penance, and so on. All these activities are against the natural growth of spontaneous love of Godhead. As soon as these are present within the heart should be understood to be unclean and therefore unfit to serve as Krishna's sitting place. We cannot perceive the Lord's presence in our hearts unless our hearts are cleansed. A material desire is explained as a desire to enjoy the material world to its fullest extent. In modern language, this is called economic development. An inordinate desire for economic development is considered to be like straws and grains of sand within the heart. If one is overly engaged in material activity, the heart will always remain disturbed, as stated by Narottam Das Thakur. Sangsara vishanale diva nishihi avrale judaite na kainu upaye. In other words, endeavor for material opulence is against the principle of devotional service. Material enjoyment includes activities such as great sacrifices for auspicious activity, charity, austerity, elevation of the higher planetary system, and even living happily within the material world. Modernized material benefits are like the dust of material contamination. When this dust is agitated by the whirlwind of fruitive activity, it overcomes the heart. Thus the mirror of the heart is covered with dust. There are many desires to perform auspicious and inauspicious activities, but people do not know how life after life they are keeping their hearts unclean. One who cannot give up the desire for fruitive activity is understood to be covered by the dust of material contamination. Karmis generally think that the interaction of fruitive activities can be counteracted by another karma or fruitive activity. This is certainly a mistaken conception. So this is very, very instructive. Prabhupada talks here about how endeavoring unnecessary or over-endeavor for material advancement. And he instructs also, he says the tendency, material tendency, is, for example, when one has a family and is building a house for that family. He wants to build a most palatial house. But Srila Prabhupada says that one should simply live simple living and high thinking. And therefore, in the association of the devotees, if one has to work outside and engage in economic development, then one should do that, have the blessings of the spiritual master, and find the ways and means to do that in such a way so that his existence will be purified. Actually, there are many instructions there that say that grihastas must give 50% of their income to the furtherment of the Krishna consciousness movement. But of course, that's not being done today, and it may not be possible as devotees are having to live outside, and expenses are very, very high. But the contamination in the heart is very, very deep, and we've been contaminated by this desire for fruitive activity for many, many, many lifetimes. And so there is this principle of yukta vairagya, of engaging everything in Krishna's service. But one should do that under the instruction of other Vaishnavas to find out how one can perfectly do that, and under the instruction of the spiritual master, so one's existence will be purified. I know, for example, in Mountain View, California, where Vaishesika Prabhu has his temple. Vaishesika Prabhu is an old friend of mine. I often visit the temple there. And the devotees there are, there's over 100, where they have these marathons every weekend, where like 100, 150 devotees go out on book distribution. They're all working people. They all have like, you know, some of them very highly placed IT jobs. But Vaishesika Prabhu is very, very, they've taken his instructions, Prabhupada's instructions, very seriously, many of them. And at their working place, they have pictures. A lot of them at work have these little cubicles, so they have pictures of Prabhupada and Krishna. And they have books there. They distribute books as much as they are allowed to different people at work. And gradually other people from work are also becoming devotees. They give a high percent of their income to the furtherment of the Krishna consciousness movement. And they attend as far as they can all the temple programs on Sunday, a lot of the programs throughout the week. In that way, they're very, very involved and in the mission of spreading Krishna consciousness movement. And even though they're engaging as grihastas, they're very very exemplary like that. So I think we'll have to stop here. We're out of time. Thank you very much for your kind attention. All glories to Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the cleansing of the Gundicha temple.